Welcome to the Respectful Divorce Podcast. If you're considering a divorce, it's important to know that you have options for how you divorce. On the Respectful Divorce Podcast, we explore those options and provide advice from divorce professionals. I'm your host today, Tim Crouch, and we're talking with members of the New Jersey Council of Collaborative Groups. And we're going to be talking about getting divorced in New Jersey and the upcoming Divorce with Respect Week. Joining us today are Anna Maria Pittella, a family law attorney in Red Bank, New Jersey, and Stacy Udell, a CPA and financial professional in Cherry Hill, New Jersey. Thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
So the first question that I think a lot of people have when divorce is on the table, Anna Maria, as a family law attorney, what is it like to go through a divorce in New Jersey?
Well, interestingly enough, it's a little bit different from county to county. So I practice in Monmouth County and sometimes in Ocean County, although I haven't done a litigated divorce in years because I've turned to other options, which I think are better for families. But if you're going to start with a complaint, with divorce, you're either going to do it on your own, which is called pro se, self-represented, or you're going to do it by finding an attorney who does litigated divorces. And essentially, you're going to be under the control of the courts or of the attorneys who are handling their respective clients and being shuttled through the process. So it's filing a complaint, alleging whatever accusations you want to make against each other, although nowadays it's more along the lines of irreconcilable differences. So at least that part of it is agreed upon, if you can say anything. And from there on in, it's going through the exchange of financial information, exchange of information based on the children's needs and wants and interests, coming up with proposals, all under the shadow of the court. So essentially, the court has control of how the process takes, not only in terms of structure, but also in terms of time. So whereas you might file a complaint for today, you may not actually ever see a judge for sometimes literally 2 years. There may be some court events in the meantime, but a lot of them are remote, and sometimes the clients aren't even present for that. So you're in the shadows. You're not really present for your own divorce other than being given information from time to time through your attorneys. So that you have to decide whether or not that's the type of process you want, or you want to be more involved.
I guess the important piece of that is it doesn't have to be that way.
Exactly. You have choices. And the important thing is to explore those choices. And if you go to an attorney who only does litigation, the first time you'll probably hear about a lot of the choices you have, maybe when you're actually filed a complaint for divorce, because they're required to give you a form that explains the different processes, which is kind of a bizarre concept when you think about it. You should be talking about that from the very beginning.
Yep. And so that one of those options is the collaborative divorce process. And so how is it different from the other options that are available for how you go through a divorce?
Well, first and foremost, it's confidential. So you're not appearing in court. You're not testifying in court. You're not submitting any paperwork in court, all of which is public record. So your experience is basically through conversations with your respective attorneys with the help of other professionals that it can assist you in the different parts that every divorce has. The important thing is that it's all privileged information. So you can basically say what you need to say without it having been made part of a court record. And you can also engage people that are most appropriate to give you options to make good decisions. So it's not just working with your attorney, and it's not working towards having to prepare for a trial. The process is done through conversations. They're private conferences. There's nothing that's going to be recorded as it would be in court. There's no documents that have to be prepared with the intention of persuading a judge to do this, that, or the other thing. It's really trying to intertwine what the couple's needs and interests and goals are so that they then become the authors of their agreement.
And so part of that process is that you have some neutral professionals in the form of mental health professionals, divorce coaches, or like Stacy, financial professionals. And Stacy, what is your role in the collaborative divorce process?
I can do a few things. Sometimes if one of the parties owns a business, we'll perform business valuations to determine what it's worth so that it can be divided in the divorce. We're also used for determining if somebody is not a W-2 employee and if they're a business owner, generally what their actual income is, because you can't necessarily tell from a W-2. And also sometimes we help with budgeting and determining what their actual expenses are, because often parties have no idea where their money's spent.
And one of the pieces that I mentioned a moment ago, you're neutral. And when we talk about being neutral, what's the value of having you in the process as a neutral in the collaborative case?
I prefer it because it's generally less costly for the parties, and I'm trying to do the right thing, so I'm unbiased in what I do. But what often happens in litigated matters is an expert will be biased. An attorney is an advocate for their client, but as an accountant, we're not advocates for the client. We're supposed to be advocates for our opinion, but you find experts that don't operate that way. And I don't think that's necessarily fair to the family unit as a whole.
Wow. And Anna Maria, as an advocate, how is the work that you do different in a collaborative case versus if you were going into court?
Well, first and foremost, in court, you're advocating, but you're advocating in a much more provocative way. You're not really listening to what the other spouse is saying or trying to propose or even intending to say, because sometimes their vocabulary isn't exactly the let's say it could be more volatile than necessary. So as an attorney, my job in a collaborative process is to hear everybody in the room. I focus on my client's interests, but I also have to keep in mind that this may be his or her first divorce. It's not mine. I've seen a lot of different facts and circumstances, and I think I can offer that depth to a client to sort of monitor feelings that get in the way of coming up with good decisions. Every attorney should advocate for their client. I don't give up that role, but I need to express it differently than I would if I was doing it in court. Court's a real blame game. That's really what's focuses and drives litigation. That's not what we're here to do in collaborative process, especially when there's children involved, because these are going to be parents for a long, long time, way beyond 21, 28, 32, whenever they leave the nest. But when there's grandchildren and so forth, and you don't want a divorce, even if it lasts 4 years, to then be the roadmap for the rest of your life.
Yeah, but the collaborative process, as a general rule, doesn't last 4 years. It goes fairly efficiently, doesn't it?
Again, assuming the clients are really motivated, it will take much less than 4 years, mainly because we structure meetings. We don't have to worry about the court giving us court dates. We don't have to file motions, which take anywhere from, a month to 2 months sometimes to be heard. We can deal with crisis a lot faster by just calling a meeting. It's just a matter of getting on the phone and getting the people involved and finding a resolution. And again, it's something that the clients orchestrate. It's not something that we're deciding for them whether they like it or not. Somebody's going to win something, lose something, gain something, modulate something, but it's going to be something that they're going to be able to live with. And that's what life's about. And nobody ever gets 100% of the pie.
And Stacy, when you're doing your work, I've gotten the impression through the years that if you can resolve the financial questions, the greatest fear factor kind of begins to get eliminated, and the other things can be resolved a little more quickly. Would you agree that the financial issues are the toughest part sometimes? That you can get past that fear and move on?
Well, I think it's the children and the money. I mean, those are the most, the most impactful issues. And, I try to make both parties understand what the true financial picture is. And another thing I think that's nice about collaborative is you could be creative. In court, you can't be as creative, but there's, you can try different things because it's a collaborative divorce, things that might, not be normal.
Yeah. So how did you become a collaborative professional? What brought you to this process?
I did it because I liked the idea of not having the parties fight. I think I'm guessing it was back when I was trained that somebody talked about being at your children's wedding and not being able to talk to the other person. And, you don't want to see people living their life like that. And I think this is the best way to handle, not having both parties hate each other at the end of the day. Because, and Anna Maria might not agree, she might agree, when the attorneys start fighting in litigation, it makes it worse for the parties because they just get angrier. I mean, I don't think litigation helps the parties have a better relationship. I think the attorneys and what they're doing to advocate for their client often hurts the family unit.
Yeah. Anna Maria, what brought you to collaborative? Why did this become an important part of your practice?
Mainly because I just did not want to litigate another case. I've had too many that, even though my client might have been satisfied with what he or she received, was not going to work for them in the long term. And that's when applications are made post-judgment, and they are then living a life of responding or initiating more motions for the future. I had a divorce case that lasted 10 years. The child was 10 years old, and it didn't stop until they graduated. The youngest one graduated from college. They were fighting up until that very day. Crazy. Just crazy. Those poor kids. I mean, to think that was the backdrop for their family life. So to me, it doesn't seem that we have to have that. I know it because I've experienced it. There are very difficult cases that can go through collaborative process, but there's enough pieces to address all of the issues that need to be addressed. And am I going to tell you that every person stays in collaborative? No, that's not the case. And that's unfortunate because I think even those cases at some point can resolve, but the majority of them do. And I think people walk away satisfied with the result. I can only tell you that by my Facebook page because I've had a couple of people say so.
So one of the things I've heard people say is that our court system is really not designed for divorce and family law issues. It's because of the way that you have to fight that out. Do you agree with that, Anna Maria, or disagree with that?
A lot of it depends on the judges. There are many judges who will have a real hands-on approach to family cases, and they take a lot of time and effort to make sure that they do as much as they possibly can to help a family. But those are few and far between, and they get burned out. It's really too much for them. You can't carry 1,500 cases. That just doesn't make sense. And they're all different levels. So I would say that family court can't manage what needs to be done for a family because it's legally based and they're applying statutes. They can't come in and talk about what the interests of the children are in a way that a therapist could and help parents kind of navigate that as the children age, because it's not going to be a one and done thing. You have children that are in grade school and parents are going through a divorce. It's a whole different ballgame when they get to high school and college. Different issues. We try and address it. Subsets of reviews take place, but that doesn't mean necessarily that they can't reconvene and get a little bit more support for those times too.
And Stacy, one of the things that I always have heard about the collaborative process that is so different from the litigated process is that there's kind of a roadmap for what your life will look like financially afterwards. You help create some budgets and things along those lines, right?
Yes. Especially for if there's a non-working spouse or, dependent spouse, usually they don't, like I said before, they don't understand how to pay bills and what bills they have. So part of the process in New Jersey is filing a case information statement, and that does help them to learn how, what the actual spending was. But then we can work with them to figure out what the future spending should look like, because what's in the case information statements isn't necessarily exactly what their future is going to be, because that's based on the family as a whole.
So for both of you, in this collaborative process, how have you seen it make a difference in your clients' lives versus what might have happened in litigation? Stacy?
I think it's just that generally speaking, the families get along better and can remain intact. And oftentimes I think the speed at which it can be done is, another factor. People, once they decide they're going to get divorced, they want to get on with their lives. And I think the fact that the collaborative process can increase the speed in which that occurs, I think is a big benefit for them.
Yeah. Anna Maria, how have you seen it make a difference in people's lives?
I think it's the clarity of the process that helps, because the team basically means that they're going to each have an avenue of their profession to use to help with whatever problem there is. So they'll have a family counselor basically helping with the parents' interests for their children, parenting plans, whatever the case may be. They'll have the financial neutral, such as Stacy, to take care of each of their households going forward. And then they have the attorneys basically telling them what the law is. We still have to do that. Again, they need to know what the law is, and if they decide to go out of the process, that this is where it will take them. And we have to. We're not bucking the law. We're trying to see what we can do to make it work for this particular family. So, it really, I think, is that clarity that they have from the very beginning, and the protection of the confidentiality, that they can say things that they probably will not get to say in court here, and it's still going to make a difference. It can be said, even just makes you feel better that you've said it, then at least we can move on to the next issue.
All right. Final question. As we are recording this, it's ahead of Divorce with Respect Week, which is coming up March 1st through 8th, and people can get free consultations during Divorce with Respect Week. What should someone expect if they're going to do a consultation with you, that kind of initial consultation to learn more? And Anna Maria, I'll let you go first.
Well, I think anybody who wants to prepare for that type of a consultation should have a sense of what their concerns are. If they're looking forward to the future, what are the most important things that they want to address? And do they have suggestions on how they should be addressed? I'm not saying it's right or wrong, whatever they say, but it's something to give us direction, because that's what we work off. Whatever our clients tell us are the problems, that's how we try and assist them to reach the solution for that problem. So knowing your goals, or if you don't know your goals, who do you need to have help you find your goals so that we can give you direction?
Yeah. And Stacy, if someone's going to come talk to you during the Divorce with Respect Week, what will they learn from a consultation with you?
Well, generally in our practice group, we have the mental health professionals or the divorce coach have the initial consultation, because she is also a better gauge at if the parties would be good candidates for it. I mean, I've talked to friends and people like that about collaborative, but I don't generally get involved in the initial assessments of it.
Okay. So I want to say a special word of thanks to both of you today, Anna Maria Pittella and Stacy Udell. Thank you for joining us. If someone wants to reach you, what's the best way to learn more about you and to get in touch with you? Stacy?
My email address is probably the best way, and that's Udell, Udell, at saxadvisorygroup.com. That's SAX. And on the New Jersey Council of Collaborative Divorce Professionals has everybody's contact information on there as well.
Okay. And Anna Maria, best way to get in touch with you?
Well, you can call the office. We still have a phone, so that's a good thing. It's 732-842-6939. Or you can email me. It's A.M. Pittella, my last name, Pittella, at pitellalaw.com. 2 T's, 2 L's. Otherwise, it's going to bounce.
All right. Well, thank you both very much for being with us today on the Respectful Divorce Podcast. We're going to put that contact information in the show notes. For those of you watching us online, thank you for watching the Respectful Divorce Podcast. This important programming note, Divorce with Respect Week is coming up March 1st through 8th, 2026. During Divorce with Respect Week, you can talk with lawyers, divorce coaches, divorce financial experts for free to learn more about the divorce process and your options. Simply go to Divorce with Respect Week to find professionals near you. Divorce with Respect Week, March 1st through 8th. That website, divorcewithrespectweek.com. I'm Tim Crouch for the Respectful Divorce Podcast, reminding you that collaborative divorce is a better way to untie the knot.